Onto the culture, we touched upon potentially taking inspiration from other more innovative sectors in terms of help shift perceptions around data and technology and those sorts of things around that. Have you got any examples of those? I think there's some really obvious ones that we often refer to when we're talking about digital, and particularly from our perspective, from a self-service point of view, people will often quickly start thinking about banking experiences, using online banking for apps and even e-commerce sites for certain things. But is there anything in particular that sort of spring to mind from an innovative sort of examples point of view from a data perspective that you've come across?
Exactly. So some of the interesting bits where you get some interesting insight when you look outside housing industry, for example, if you have an opportunity to sit in platforms where you can attend conferences where they're across the industry, that'd be very useful. So a good example is maybe take people within the marketing space. So especially if they are kind of being data driven and at the front end of leading data within the marketing space, they have to do a lot in terms of like actually figuring out how they make this interesting insight, how it lands into how sort of people are going to consume that data. They also have to do a lot in terms of like how they're going to nudge behavior. So there's a lot we can learn from that space, but they also then bring in this side of using data and behavioral insights as well. So we can learn from what they've done there and apply it within our space. Want to nudge culture within our own housing associations, but also identifying, let's say, some other models you can use, whether in instances where you're, let's say, dealing with qualitative data and you want to get insight out of it. People within that marketing industry, they do that. That's their sort of day-to-day bread and butter stuff. So you can pinch some of the models that they're using there and apply within our space rather than reinventing the wheel.
That's a great point. And I like how you kind of link that back, Eli, to the marketing space in terms of what's the art of the possible and how that kind of, I suppose, industry, if you like, handles this sort of stuff. We brought on to the Hive a couple of times last year, actually, the managing director of our sister company, Felius, who are a marketing automation and growth agency, if you like, in terms of using CRM for those sorts of things, working with very much kind of B2B customers in the insurance, leisure and tourism space and elsewhere. And Paul was kind of touching on the Hive to the housing sort of professionals with us that day around, you know, some of the things they do is very much contact list segmentation based upon certain triggers and certain criteria, whether that be interactions or engaging in certain ways with some sort of asset online or a chatbot or over the phone. And then therefore using that criteria to take people down a certain path. And, you know, wouldn't that be great in the housing space to be able to do that? It's certainly possible. You know, it's just you need to have the technology in place, which enables that sort of functionality, and also the data feeding into that, I suppose. So no, that's a great point.